today just to get things up and running. Last Bonnet, well, I say Bonnet Chronicles. Last Craft and Chat was a bit rough because I didn't realize that the sound wasn't going through OBS Studios. So I had to do a recording to make sure that everything was okay. So far, so good. So we are going to get this started. Welcome to Kalari's Craft and Chat. I am your host, KalariGxC. Give me just a moment while I put the word out and make sure that we are live. I'm going to mute this, but also get the word out so that if people want to come in, they can. If they want to lurk, they can. But our rule is we get this started no matter what, whether it fills up or not. Let's get this out on both Spoutable and Blue Sky. Those are my only two social medias. And if you see somebody impersonating me, just ignore them. I've made it clear that I yeeted my Twitter. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I have YouTube, Spoutable, and Blue Sky so far. Those are all I need. And I know some will go, well, what about your Facebook? That's just to keep track of family. I'm not on Facebook enough to care about that. But we are going to get this started because today is a really serious topic for me. And our model today is Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. He's holding a pineapple. I cannot wait to get this painted. He also has a leg. Don't mind the little blue. I was testing the blue that I mixed to make sure I get his pigment right. This is going to be an amazingly fun character to paint. I love Lilo and Stitch. One of the things that I don't miss about Twitter was getting into it with racists who would say stuff like, well, Lilo and Stitch and Moana didn't really gel with me. I didn't have a character I can identify with. And it's like, it's stories about family. It's stories about togetherness. What about it couldn't you gel with? And they were making it obvious. And a lot of these people swear that they're progressive or that they're liberals, but racism isn't a bottom line for them. Whether it's in entertainment or politics, they will always put their place in the social hierarchy above all of us. And one of the things that I have to highlight here, we'll get to Anonymous after, is what's going on in the main race. Now, if you don't follow politics, which I hope that if you watch me, you follow politics, because if you don't, why are you watching this? Why are you following me? I'm a very politically invested woman. I believe in following who represents us, who is going to be our voice in the government. It is called political investment. And it doesn't always yield the results I want, but I think harm reduction and putting the whole country above just my selfish needs yields better for everybody. But if you follow any sort of politics, you know that Lisa Collins, who is the current sit-in House of Rep, or I believe, yes, she's a House Rep, who is constantly talking about how disappointed she is. She's a Republican. She never goes against the party, and she has fallen in line with the Trump regime. So Maine has had enough, and they're trying to get her out. Now, there are two really big, well, not big outside of Maine, but big personalities that are vying for this spot. One is Janet Mills, who has already told Trump to his face that she will take him to court. She is willing to fight him strategically and smartly. But on the other side, we have a certified Bernie bro who is backed by David Hogg, who I'm going to get to because he's whole ass problematic too, who has a Nazi symbol on his chest. Now, in this short, he's going to claim to have covered it up, but I want you to listen after I play this clip to why I feel it's problematic for any Dem to not have hatred as their bottom line that you do not cross if you're going to be a representative. So let's get this fired up while I start getting Stitch prep because it really is frustrating. Let me get this art reference up for him. He is adorable. I cannot wait to get him painted. But when I tell you this freaking heats me up, I am not joking. Let's get this fired off.
Maine, a high-stakes Senate race is heating up, causing drama for Democrats, now with an extra twist of Nazi symbolism.
My name is Graham Plattner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine.
Democratic candidate Graham...
Just to even pause this, because I can't stand when our media does this. It's always, oh, this is going to be bad for Democrats. Without understanding that we understand the assignment, we're not going to let somebody with a literal Nazi skull on his chest represent us, but the media plays into this fascist dictatorship with the way they frame stuff. We're not ignoring Janet Mills does not represent hate like this man. But we can't trust our fourth estate not to report it like that.
Graham Plattner running to unseat longtime Republican Senator Susan Collins, under fire for a controversial tattoo on his chest, a skull and crossbones symbol historically associated with the Nazis.
I am not a secret Nazi.
The oyster farmer and military vet saying he got the tattoo in 2007 in an interview on the left-leaning Pod Save America podcast this week, saying he was not aware of the symbol's history.
So why don't you study it? You're like that teenage girl in Asia that got a Nazi symbol on her arm and then was like, well, I didn't realize what it meant. And people gave her a pass because she was literally a teenager. Sir, you're in your 40s. You are quite literally old enough to know better. Yet you put this symbol as a fucking Marine, as an American Marine whose armies fought against Hitler and the SS and Nazism in the first place. And you're telling us that as a grown man who is in the military, you didn't understand what that meant? I call BS on this, point blank.
When he chose it on a night of drinking while serving in the U.S. Marines. In a statement, Plattner telling NBC News in part, "It was not until I started hearing from reporters and D.C. insiders that I realized this tattoo resembled a Nazi symbol.
You needed reporters and D.C. insiders to tell you that? I don't care how drunk you are. This is why drunk people shouldn't get tattoos. A lot of you try to play cutesy and get tattoos in foreign languages and end up embarrassing yourself. Or you get tribal tattoos with no tribal ties. But this is clearly a Nazi symbol that you proudly displayed on your chest for years until you decide to run for office and the ghost of your past mistakes are now biting you in the ass, Mr. Planter.
Absolutely would not have gone through life having this on my chest if I knew that." On Wednesday, Plattner posting a video on social media showing he got the tattoo covered up. Despite the backlash, some big-name Dems standing behind him.
Impressed that media is so concerned about the tattoo.
Senator Bernie Sanders defending his endorsement.
Of course he would, because Bernie Sanders is a misogynist. He's a bigot, whether his progressives want to believe that, because he's still trying to promise you free shit that you can't. And I've got a whole topic of socialism that I'm going to cover, because socialism sounds great on paper, but it is not realistic in a socially divided world where there are hierarchies and where there aren't people that are willing to give without getting in return. But the fact that people are going to use, well, Bernie Sanders is Jewish, so if he backs him, that's not good enough. Bernie Sanders doesn't represent all Jewish people. And from every circle that I keep in touch with, including people from my hometown in New York, this is unacceptable. And Maine Jewish people, outside Senator Sanders, who is literally from Vermont, are not happy with an anti-Semitic tattoo being on a candidate that claims to want to represent their voice. But this is what I mean about vetting and taking this seriously. For some of you, you have no bottom line when it comes to politics. You want wrestlers and MMA fighters instead of actual strategically smart politicians. And Plant is problematic for that tattoo, but also for his attitude of shitting on the party that he wants to use the resources for.
Endorsement of Plattner and bristling when I asked him this.
Do you think it's necessary that he gets it removed or covered up?
Look, we are dealing with a collapsing healthcare system, and you were asking me about whether...
How did you vote, Bernie? You want to go on about how you're worried about a collapsing healthcare system. This has been your bullhorn for years. But when it was shown that your healthcare plan was not fiscally feasible, instead of adjusting like Kamala Harris did, you bristled. You doubled down. How dare you people tell me I'm not a genius when it comes to planning stuff like this. That is why you cannot trust men like Bernie Sanders to lead anything. He is for himself. And all his sycophants are like, well, he's been in Congress for years. Why can't he be a millionaire? This is a guy who made his whole platform rallying against millionaires and billionaires. But it's acceptable for him to have several mansions. It's acceptable for him to be worth millions of dollars. And it's acceptable for him as a Jewish man to accept somebody with a Nazi skull on his chest, even though now he's got it covered up. Bernie Sanders is a threat to stable, smart politics because he plans for people who only have junk food brains to follow crap like this.
Or not, a guy should get a tattoo removed. Sorry.
Do you think that scandals are no longer the death sentence that they used to be in political campaigns?
They should.
They seem not to be. And that seems to be the biggest difference in this Trump era with candidates.
Only a certain demographic believes that. I will say it again as a proud member of the 92%. It would be beyond me to overlook anti-Semitism because it doesn't seemingly directly affect me. That is a problem with a certain group of voters. They don't have a bottom. They don't have a line that cannot be drawn when it comes to hate, when it comes to misogyny, when it comes to homophobia. And that is the problem with current politics. That's always been a problem with politics. Some of you feel safe and away from being the targets. This is not just a scandal. This is somebody asking to be a Maine state representative who is literally wearing the symbol of hate. Something my grandfather and probably his grandfather went to war against, which makes it doubly insulting.
Refusing to bow out because they think that they can get beyond this scandal. And many times they're proven right and voters are willing to forgive them.
I hope
In
not.
Maine, a high-stakes Senate race is heating up, causing drama for Democrats, now with an extra twist of Nazi symbolism.
My name is Graham Plattner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine.
Started, but like I said, I hate when they flame it as it's a Dem problem. No, it is people who use our resources and claim to be Dems, yet don't stand for anything that we are actually about. And that is a problem within our party. It is a problem against running up against entitlement. It is a problem against dealing with people who would much rather look away from something that's obviously wrong, such as a literal fucking Nazi tattoo on a candidate running for representative. If this isn't a deal breaker for you, yet you claim to be a Democrat, you claim to be all about the party, you aren't. And I know some people don't want to hear it. They want to give you their resume every time you talk to them. Well, this is what I've done for you people. I literally have people say that to me on Twitter as if it wasn't insulting. And the problem with people who do stuff like this is that they claim to be about taking care of everybody, but in the end, it's just about themselves. Because if you really cared about people in our party that are constantly targeted by hate, you would not back somebody like this. Especially when we are stuck in this dumb regime. Trump has embarrassed us on a geopolitical scale yet again with his trip to Asia. I'm going to fire off Anonymous's video on that so that you can see how demonstrous. Oh, I can't even say the word. I'm trying to keep calm so I'm not yelling. How highly embarrassing this trip to Asia was for the American people by this man who claims to be the president of the United States but is acting like he is royalty instead. It is a mess, and I just want you to see for yourself how disgusting this trip to Asia was and how embarrassing Trump was on a national scale. So let's get this fired up by Anonymous, and I will commentate.
We are anonymous. We are the voice of the watchers, the ones who refuse to stay silent while corruption hides behind flags and empty speeches. Tonight, we reveal how Donald Trump turned what was meant to be a diplomatic mission into a global embarrassment, a disastrous trip to Asia that exposed the weakness, greed, and hypocrisy behind his regime. When Trump's plane landed in Seoul, South Korea, he expected applause. Instead, the streets erupted in protest. Thousands filled the air with chants and banners, furious at Trump's demand that South Korea pay the United States $350 billion or risk losing its alliance. They knew what that meant. It wasn't partnership. It was blackmail.
Exactly. Now, I need to remind you, especially after that scandal where ICE raided a literal Hyundai and LG plant to enforce stuff, Korea has been wary of our nonsense as it is. Their prime minister already was worried that meeting with Trump would pull a Zelensky, which is code for embarrass them and put them in an embarrassing position. And the fact that over 400 workers were detained by ICE and deported unceremoniously when they came here to not only teach our plant workers how to efficiently run the plant, but show us how to do it ourselves is still an embarrassment. And the fact is, Trump is trying to shake Korea down for money. It's always about trying to shake people down, including what he's doing to the American tax dollars with his fucking ballroom and with his chasing down the DOJ for successfully prosecuting him for his actual crimes.
It was America under Trump, not leading, but threatening its friends. Cameras captured his motorcade, passing by signs that read, "No extortion, no Trump." The world saw it. The damage was done. Hours later, he arrived in Malaysia, where the chaos continued. Under the glaring lights of Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Trump began to dance, yes, dance, awkwardly, imitating the traditional performers there.
Look at that. And sadly, they have to smile. This is a traditional dance. Even if they're embarrassed or displeased, they're going to smile and try to keep in sync with what they're doing. Sadly, this was a faux pas. But Uncle Grandpa there doesn't seem to understand that. He just goes and does what he wants, thinking, oh, this will make me popular amongst these Southeast Asian people. If I act like a clown, they'll love me. But when it comes to geopolitics, decorum matters.
Local broadcasters cut the feed, calling it deeply inappropriate. Social media exploded with disbelief. Malaysians used to dignity in ceremony, watched an American president act like a sideshow. Commentators called it creepy and bizarre. Others compared it to the strange dance videos of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein from the 1990s. Once again, the supposed leader of the free world became a global punchline. And then came the speech. What should have been a moment of diplomacy turned into a stream of self-pity. Trump ranted about a broken escalator at the United Nations and complained that his teleprompter had stopped working.
I won't forget that day because it was one of the first wars that I got involved in, and I love doing it. It's like
even a few seconds of this man talking makes me want to scream for the 25th Amendment clause to be put in place. He is obviously in the world of his own when it comes to making up wars that he allegedly ended, complaining about the UN conference that he bombed at, and blaming everybody but his lack of cognitive function for it.
I shouldn't say it's a hobby because it's so much more serious than a hobby, but it's something that I'm good at, and it's something I love to do. The United Nations should be doing this, but they don't do it. They don't do it. They turned off my teleprompter when I made a speech. I had to make a speech without a teleprompter. They're good at that. The escalator wasn't working too well. It came to a complete halt. But
he bragged about bringing in $20 trillion to the U.S. economy, a number so absurd that economists around the world laughed out loud. He even claimed that Qatar was investing over $1 trillion in...
Mind you, Qatar's global domestic product is nowhere near that. They are a wealthy nation to a certain extent, wealthy enough to bribe Trump with a fucking compromised plane, but they are not at the level of investing $1 trillion. But he pulls these numbers out of his ass because his base won't question it. You know, he loves the poorly educated. He said that more than once. But he pulls these unfeasible numbers to try to look like he's the best pick for these countries. And sadly, as you're going to hear, we have lost global credibility because of this man. It's embarrassing.
To the United States.
Other industries, the United States is having its golden age. Last year, we were a country that was doing very poorly under a different semi-leadership.
Wrong. Need I remind you that under President Biden, we had $1 billion deal with China. We saved our farmers after Trump's first term fucked them over. But these people forgot. They acted brand new. They thought Project 2025 and Trump was going to save them and make them elevated millionaires and whatnot. And in the end, once again, a lot of them are hurting. A lot of them are going to lose their farms. And all I can ask, was it worth it? What did you trade? And it reminds me of that scene with Thanos and Gamora. Everything. You're trading everything for maybe the hopes that this doofus can elevate you. And he's already showed you once. And then you shat on the person who lifted you up out of that. So it's karma. The only thing I'm mad about is that the rest of us got to suffer along with you assholes.
I don't even go to leadership. But this year we're doing numbers that nobody ever thought it was possible for any country to do. We'll be, at the end of my first year, over $20 trillion worth of investment into the United States. There's no country anywhere that's ever done anything close to that.
Because it didn't happen. No other country has done it because it's not fiscally possible. No country is going to risk $1 trillion in a country with a doddering old man as the leader. Point blank, period.
The United States last year, for the 4 years, it was announced, did less than $1 trillion, and we're going to be doing over 20. That's quite a difference.
The entire GDP of Qatar isn't even close to that. It was pure fiction delusion, wrapped in ego. Meanwhile, back home, America was suffering. The government was shut down. 20 million people had lost their health care. Families couldn't afford groceries. Rent was crushing them. Yet Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, told the press that what's happening in North America is taking second fiddle to President Trump's leadership in the Pacific.
Whatever is going on back in North America, I think, is the taking second fiddle to...
Which it shouldn't. Trump is the president of this country. As much as I hate to say it, it makes bile rise up in my throat, honestly. He is the president of the United States. We, especially since his whole thing is America first, should quite literally come first when it comes to priorities. But he has proven time and time again that it's money first, America last.
President Trump's leadership out here in the Pacific.
Leadership. Americans were struggling to survive, and the administration's response was to chase cameras across Asia. And while the people suffered, Trump's corruption went international. During a quick stop in Qatar, he met the emir, his friend, who just so happened to gift him a $400 million private jet.
Like I said, plenty of us has said follow the money. But when you follow the money, it's a really dirty closet full of dirty dealings by people who want to curry favor because they know Trump is a fucking pushover. And that's the saddest part about this. There are a lot of people who are going to get over on Trump because he is that fucking dumb.
Trump smiled, posed for photos, and called it an honor.
If you left me, it's such an honor to have you on the plane.
Bob, bitch.
First time. I don't think he's ever done this, actually.
It wasn't honor. It was bribery.
Yep.
It was America for sale.
Yep.
A country auctioned to whoever could pay the price. Then Trump returned to the stage in Malaysia, where he again boasted about fake investments, fake deals, and fake victories. He called it America's golden age. But what kind of golden age is this when farmers can't sell soybeans, when grocery prices soar when fuel costs eat away paychecks. When asked about inflation, Besant snapped at reporters, calling them cherry pickers. He claimed prices were falling. That
prices are not falling. Besser, who's worth about $600 million, wouldn't even understand that. I doubt that man's ever had to shop for himself. He is a spoiled fucking trust fund bro who doesn't seem to understand that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because the cost of living keeps going up, yet the freaking wages do not match it. And while, as somebody who studies economics, who has studied economics and worked in finance, I understand that you can't just have a blanket wage increase because certain states have a lesser cost of living than others. The fact that we have been at $7 still for over 2 decades should tell you how effed up it is. Prices of rent have gone up, utilities have gone up, food has gone up. And while we're in a shutdown that denies benefits to over 40 million people, these idiots are gallivanting around Asia, embarrassing themselves, lying about numbers while American people suffer. And fools like this man, who is a $600 million yes man to Trump, get on my nerves because they are not baked in reality as American people suffer under this ridiculous regime.
That eggflation was over and that things are much better. Gaslighting at its finest. As reporters pressed for answers, Besant dismissed every question with arrogance. Why was the government still shut down? Why won't Trump meet Democrats halfway to reopen it? He simply refused to answer. He said, why does the president have to meet with Democrats?
It's literally his job. It's quite literally his job. Why does he have to? Because that's what he signed up for when he decided to be president of the United States. You fucking moron.
The arrogance was staggering. This wasn't leadership. It was dictatorship disguised as defiance. And while Americans waited for their paychecks, Trump stood in Asia pretending to save the world. He held a fake peace summit in Malaysia, mediating between Thailand and Cambodia for a border agreement he barely understood. His staff called it a monumental achievement, but locals said the deal had already been drafted by ASEAN diplomats weeks before Trump even arrived.
And this is his MO. He will literally take credit for something he had no hands in and then disavow, like the two-state accord that he fucked up between Israel and Palestine during his first attempt to be president. And yet his sycophants will say, no, Pete, it's monumentous. He helped with it. And locals are like, what are you even talking about? We had this on the table before you got here. Why are you taking credit for our politicians' work? It's embarrassing. It is like the kid in your class that you may have to do a shared report with that sits around doing absolutely nothing, waits to the day that you have to present the report, and then tries to take credit for everybody else's hard work. And if you have been in those kind of classes, you know exactly the assholes I'm talking about. They do absolutely nothing because they're going to coast our mommy and daddy's money, and then they bilk on the hard work of those of us who just want to do right by our projects. I can't stand people like that, and Trump is the epitome of that asshole.
Simply took the credit. Back home, prices continued to rise. Coffee up 19%. Beef up 15%. Bacon up 6%. People were skipping meals while Trump danced overseas. He lied, claiming he was saving the farmers, while his own trade wars destroyed their markets. When pressed on the issue, Besant called himself a soybean farmer, pretending to share the pain.
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this.
Sir, you are worth $600 million. Even if you thought you felt a fraction of the pain of actual farmers who put their whole lives into this, it is definitely not the same as those who are literally going to lose everything they put their hearts into. Hi, Theo. It's going good, dear. I hope you're doing all right. I already told Axiom I plan on doing your own Mega Man statue for you. I'm excited about that. It is going to be fun to print another one and paint it. Axiom got his displayed, so I'm really excited about that.
This pain too, and there are a couple of things happening here. One, the Chinese have substantially dropped their purchases to almost...
Yes, And you want to know why? Because Trump, in his lack of wisdom, gave Argentina a $40 billion bailout with our taxpayer money. Argentina, even though they're under a dictator too, went to China and said, hey, America's charging you all this for soybeans. How about we undercut them a bit and you work with us? And China, wanting to save money like anybody smart would, said, you know what? Bet. We'll do that. Thus undoing the deal that President Biden got that bailed out the farmers in the first place during his term and put us back in a bad predicament. It is sad that people don't understand that. It is sad that people refuse to see how bad for business Donald Trump is, Ilker. But it's not surprising because some people, there's no bottom for them.
Zero. So they unfortunately have been using American farmers who are amongst President Trump's biggest supporters. I think he had more than 90% support.
How'd that work out for you farmers? You literally back somebody who is destroying everything of yours. It's like I said, political investment matters so much. Whether you're a conservative, whether you're a liberal, whether you're somewhere in between, an independent, being politically aware and invested is so important in this current and any climate. One of the things I seen on social media that I completely gel with was this young lady said, I miss when politics were boring. I miss when politics was so yawn worthy that we didn't know what was going on, but we could feel it in legislation that helped enrich our country. And now it is a constant sideshow. Okay, I really hope that you have no pain, but if you do, that you get to relax. Wisdom teeth getting pulled is no fun. I had it done. It hurt like a mofo. And I hope that when you come back to stream and I can catch some of them, I know that you're on at night, and sometimes I'm up at night writing and I'll lurk people's streams. I haven't been very social lately. I've been trying to get back mentally in the mood for it. But I always do enjoy your streams when I can catch them. Theo does variety. He also does D&D from time to time. He is a very good streamer, so please check him out if you want.
And then this was one of the biggest crops in 20 or 30 years, so it was a perfect storm. But I think we have
And thank you for the lurk.
Addressed the farmers' concerns, and I'm not going to get ahead of the president, but I believe when the announcement of the deal with China is made public, that our soybean farmers will feel very...
There's no deal with China. He is going to have to severely undercut Argentina, thus losing us more money to even try to make it happen. And he already gave $40 billion of our tax dollars to Argentina. So, yeah, I do not see how this is going to work for American farmers. This is what happens when you let dunces handle economics.
Very good about what's going on both for this season and the coming seasons for...
A man worth $600 million calling himself a farmer. It was beyond insulting. It was psychotic. And when journalists asked why Trump imposed new tariffs on Canada because of a TV commercial he didn't like, Besant defended him. He said the ad from Ontario was propaganda against U.S. citizens.
It wasn't. It was our Canadian neighbors teaching us the basics of fair trade, which is something we have with them, with NAFTA, that went on for decades. But this administration decided, nope, we don't want free and fair trade that actually benefited us. We're going to impose tariffs which only the American people pay for. And he still banks on the stupid who don't believe that that's the case. But whenever there are tariffs, not only does it drive our allies and potential allies away from trading with us, Americans foot the bill. It goes up in the prices of steel, lumber, automotive creation, paper, from paper towel to toilet paper to just copy paper. Everything is going up. And I hope that you come back as soon as you can. I know it's hard to talk when your mouth is in pain, but I'm definitely wishing you a speedy recovery after you get your wisdom teeth pulled.
Well, Kristen, let's think about this. This is a kind of propaganda against U.S. citizens. It's psyops. Why would the government of Ontario? I'm told that they.
Why is it psyops? Ontario and most of Canada were our best trade partners, along with Mexico. Mexico provided us with agricultural benefits that we can't grow here ourselves, while Canada provided, once again, lumber, steel, and textiles. They are our allies, or were, but like a lot of other nations are pulling away from America because we allowed a dictator, a dumb dictator at that, to run us into the ground. Sad but true.
They have spent, or were planning to spend up to $75 million on these ads to come across the U.S. border. So what was the purpose of that?
To save free and fair trade. I know it's hard for you to understand that as you cosplay as a soybean farmer, even though you're a rich trust fund asshole. But there are countries that don't want to see world trade collapse because this current president doesn't understand free and fair trade. And they basically use the Republicans' holy icon of Ronald Reagan to highlight that even he believed in free and fair trade and that tariffs and trade wars only hurt us in the long run.
Other than to sway public opinion, and it's some kind of propaganda.
We didn't need them to sway public opinion. A lot of us didn't vote for this, and a lot of us don't want it.
And that the Premier of Ontario unilaterally launched.
That's why Trump slapped a 10% tariff on all Canadian goods. Think about that, a world leader making economic policy based on a television commercial. Allies mocked him. Diplomats rolled their eyes. The Canadian Prime Minister refused to even mention Trump.
That was the one thing that I had to pause when I first reviewed this. Current Prime Minister of Canada is PM Carney. As much as some people miss Trudeau, I have no opinion because he wasn't my Prime Minister. It is wrong to use him when Carney is the PM of Canada.
By name, calling the move emotional and erratic. Everywhere he went, Trump turned allies into enemies and laughter into headlines. Even in Japan, leaders refused to host a state banquet. The emperor's office quietly cited schedule constraints. Insiders said they simply didn't want to risk another international embarrassment. Wow. Chinese officials, too, refused to meet him publicly after reports surfaced that Trump's team demanded a private meeting with Chinese billionaires to discuss investments in U.S. resorts.
And that is not what you should be worrying about investing. The biggest deal we made with China was agricultural. The best deal we could have made with China still is agricultural. But Trump, believing that he's smarter than the average bear, which he's definitely not, decided that he was going to try to shake down Chinese billionaires to invest in resorts in America. When with ICE, being the criminals they are rounding up even tourists that they deem don't belong here. Who the heck wants to be a tourist, especially at any of Trump's resorts? You can't make this nonsense make sense. It's so ignorant and so infuriating because we didn't have to be here.
By the time Trump reached Qatar again for his return leg, the mockery had become global. Editorials across Europe described the trip as a clown show. The Times of London called it a diplomatic disaster performed in slow motion. The Guardian wrote that Trump's Asia tour will be remembered not for policy, but for parody. Even conservative outlets in the U.S. quietly admitted the optics were terrible. And then came the insult of all insults. Trump announced that he would remodel the East Wing of the White House without informing Congress or the American people. He planned to bulldoze part of the People's House to build a presidential ballroom.
Which is financially unnecessary, a security nightmare. And on top of that, a waste of taxpayer dollars when we are a month into a shutdown that has seen federal employees without a paycheck, a mysterious, not so mysterious donor who helped temporarily pay off the military, but it's not going to last, and millions off their food, utilities, and rent benefits, along with going off their health care, which premiums right now are a nightmare.
When asked why, Besant said it was a judgment call. The president is a master builder. The arrogance again was endless. America was watching a billionaire demolish history while citizens couldn't afford homes. By the time the trip ended, protests had spread across Asia. In Seoul, in Kuala Lumpur, even in Tokyo, people gathered with signs mocking Trump's words. They laughed at the $20 trillion. They mocked the jet from Qatar. They called his tour the Emperor's Clown Parade. And yet, despite the ridicule, Trump acted as if it were victory. He tweeted about tremendous success, great meetings, record investments, lies, every word a lie. His administration broadcast clips of cheering crowds that didn't exist, doctored videos to hide protests, and filled the air with propaganda. But truth cuts through noise. Every clip of laughter, every chant in Seoul, every stunned face in Malaysia tells the real story. The world no longer takes Donald Trump seriously. Even his allies began to distance themselves. Senators like Rand Paul and Tim Kaine questioned U.S. military actions abroad. Rand Paul asked why American forces were bombing fishing boats near Venezuela while calling the survivors terrorists.
Exactly. It's literally a war crime. They have no proof that these people were doing anything illegal, and it is going to get the U.S. in trouble. Like, Trump might have to go before the Hague just because of these antics. But I'm not a fan of Rand Paul. The only thing I like about him is that his neighbor kicked his ass once. And he deserved that ass beating.
Trump's response: silence. No accountability. No remorse. Just another deflection. Another distraction. Another lie. At home, the pain deepened.
You had to make a speech without a teleprompter. They're good at that. The escalator wasn't working too well. It came to a complete halt.
Embarrassing.
But
he bragged about bringing in $20 trillion to the U.S. economy, a number so absurd that economists around the world laughed out loud. He even claimed that Qatar was investing over $1 trillion into the United States.
Other industries, the United States is having its golden age. Last year.
Golden age? Excuse me? This shutdown is costing billions a week. This shutdown has displaced a lot of American citizens who literally work for the government. But he's saying golden age. This is why you can't let a liar into the White House like this. Whether you believe all politicians are liars or not, there are dangerous levels of lies, and this dangerous level of dumb lies has been getting away with it for way too long. It's ridiculous. And hey, honey, yeah, I said that too. I really hope that Theo has a speedy recovery.
Here we were a country that was doing very poorly under a different semi-leadership. I don't even call it a leadership.
Ridiculous. Oh, I must have bought back because I was like, wait a minute. Why are they replaying this? I don't really want to hear his voice. Let's get
and laughter into headlines. Even in Japan, leaders refused to host a state banquet. The emperor's office quietly cited schedule constraints. Insiders said they simply didn't want to risk another international embarrassment. Chinese officials, too, refused to meet him publicly. They mocked the giant dancing shows he cares about the American people. Imagine that, dancing while the country starves. Donald Trump's trip to Asia was supposed to strengthen America's presence in the Pacific. Instead, it showed the world that America under Trump is broken, corrupt, and for sale. He wasn't leading. He was performing. He wasn't respected. He was mocked. The photos, the speeches, the lies. They tell the story of a man obsessed not with his country, but with himself. We are anonymous. We have watched the lies, the grift, the decay of integrity. And we will not stay silent. The truth must be told.
Exactly. And thank you, Anonymous, once again for your videos. I have been keeping my pulse on them because right now it takes independent people to report what's going on. Our news keeps falling in line with this fuckery. And it's like I said, it seems like there is no bottom line for people. We are going to play a bit of a sped up version of the next one by Anonymous because I want you to all hear for yourselves just how bad it is getting for America right now. So let's get this one fired off. We're going to speed it up just a little bit this time because I have something from Dark Brandon that I want to close out on that brings a full circle about American voters and not having any bottom when it comes to what they will accept from people, including racism, misogyny, and homophobia. But let's speed this up and get this started.
Watchers in the dark, the voices that refuse to be silenced, the shadow that rises when truth is buried. Tonight, we bring you the story of how Donald Trump's trip to Asia turned into a humiliating disaster, not because of foreign leaders, but because Democrats back home pulled a move he never saw coming. Donald Trump left the United States as if he were on a royal tour, cameras flashing, headlines spinning. He strutted down the stairs of Air Force One with that same exaggerated confidence, waving to crowds, selling the illusion that he was still the king of American politics. He arrived in Kuala Lumpur for the ASEAN summit, meeting with Asian leaders, bragging about trade, and posing like a conqueror. Then he flew to Tokyo, shook hands with Japan's new prime minister, smiled for the cameras, and promised that America was stronger than ever. Behind the scenes, he even hinted at wanting to meet Kim Jong-un again, the same dictator who played him for years.
And why? No other leader would get into it with Kim Jong-un. No one takes him seriously except for Trump. It's embarrassing at this point. And on top of that, I don't understand his fixation with him. I just don't.
Trump was desperate to look powerful. He wanted distraction. He needed headlines that said Donald Trump leads again. But while he played celebrity abroad, the Democrats at home were already setting the trap. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries met with legislators in Illinois to discuss redrawing congressional maps, a strategic strike aimed right at Trump's MAGA movement. They weren't just responding to his cheating. They were reversing it. In California, Democrats advanced Proposition 50, a measure that could erase 5 Republican seats. In Virginia, they used a simple oversight. MAGA Governor Glenn Youngkin forgot to adjourn a special session to call their own. That mistake could cost Republicans 3 districts. And in Maryland, plans were already underway to redraw maps and weaken Trump's influence. Each move was legal, precise, and ruthless. They were not...
And this is why I said on Blue Sky, and to a lesser extent on Spoutable, because I feel like Spoutable is more full of people who understand the assignment. But what I said on Blue Sky holds. We need legislators. We need smart people at the helm. We don't need people with Nazi tattoos or cult of personality types who aren't going to get shit done. And I know that ruffles some people's feathers because they're like, no, we can have both. We can have a spectacle and a politician. No, we can't. Those who want to be a spectacle will always be a spectacle. But those who want to govern get stuff done. In spite of death threats, in spite of never being appreciated for it, those who are here to do the work get it done. And Hakeem Jeffries and the Dems in several key places are knocking back Republican strongholds. And I love that.
Waiting for Trump's next trick. They were outplaying him at his own game. When Trump found out, he exploded. From his luxury hotel in Asia, he posted a furious rant, calling Democrats cheating. And while Trump was screaming from his golden suite, the country he left behind was breaking. 42 million Americans were about to lose their SNAP benefits, the food assistance program that keeps families alive. In Northern Virginia, food banks ran out of supplies. Cars lined up for miles. Reporters described people crying in their vehicles after hearing there was no more food. In Missouri, a 74-year-old woman slept in her car overnight just to make sure she could eat.
If you want to know how big of a problem hunger is in rural America, spend time at a mobile food bank.
It's 90% of what I consume.
74-year-old.
And the sad thing is, the majority of people voted for this. And now they have instant regret. And I don't want to laud over them, but it didn't have to be this way. I'm not saying under Democrats things were perfect. There were still people that had needs. That's why food banks never go away. But it wasn't this fucking bad. And if you try to say it was, you're a liar.
Lorna Hall made sure to be the first at this line in Clinton, Missouri. You've been here since last night.
Yeah. It's
that important to get what you need.
Yes. And I don't keep the car running. I can't afford the gas.
In Washington, D.C., furloughed federal workers, people who served their country, stood for hours waiting for boxes of groceries.
In Southeast D.C., this food bank line just for federal workers,
you have to have your government ID,
stretches around the block. Many furloughed
The shelves were empty. Parents told reporters they never imagined this could happen to them. And while they begged for food, Trump was halfway across the world, bragging about building a golden ballroom inside the White House, a grotesque monument to his ego, while millions starved. Trump promised to make life more affordable. Instead, everything got worse. Inflation surged. Beef prices hit record highs. Coffee went up 21%. Electricity bills rose 10% year over year. New car prices crossed $50,000 for the first time in history. Healthcare costs were set to rise by $20,000 per household as ACA subsidies expired. And Trump's response, lies. He stood in front of cameras and claimed the U.S. economy was experiencing a golden age. He bragged that America had received $20 trillion in new investments.
Critical minerals and other industries, the United States is having its golden.
He signed one deal with Australia, and now he's inflating the numbers on that. Because this is legit, all he has is lies. And it should tell everybody that listens to him that he cannot be trusted. Because he cannot even tell the difference between a small trade deal with Australia for gems and other earth resources versus the economic boom we had under President Biden.
Age. Last year we were a country that was doing very poorly under a different semi-leadership.
We were not doing poorly.
Even go to leadership. But this year we're doing numbers that nobody ever thought it was possible for any country to do. We'll be, at the end of my first year, over $20 trillion worth of investment into the...
$8 trillion of debt during his first term alone. And now he was pretending it was all someone else's fault. Governor Gavin Newsom said it best. Trump is an invasive species.
An invasive species. For California. For the country. For the world. He's a wrecking ball, not just the symbolism and substance of the East Wing. He's wrecking alliances, truth, trust, tradition, institutions.
A wrecking ball tearing through trust, institutions, and truth. Even the world laughed at him. During his trip, Malaysia's prime minister joked that he had been in prison, but Trump almost got there.
And to achieve that, you have to break some rules, as you did today. When the president arrived, he asked me to join him in the car. I said, that's against the security and protocol rules. And he was delighted to break the rules, and I...
a nice ride.
It was a nice ride. And we share a lot of things in common. I was in prison, but he almost got there. But we were very good exchanges on a number of issues.
The remark hit a nerve, because everyone watching knew it was true. Trump was a man on borrowed time, lying from country to avoid facing the consequences of his own corruption. Meanwhile, his inner circle kept trying to look relatable. Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, went on TV claiming he was a soybean farmer who felt the pain of ordinary Americans.
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so...
Once again, he is legitimately worth $600 million. So, soybean farmer or not, can't relate to you, Scott Bessent.
And from farmers, a millionaire pretending to understand struggle. While the nation's farmers lost their markets, while Trump's trade wars crushed exports, his administration lied to them and said everything was fine. Back home, the Democrats' MAP strategy was unfolding with brutal efficiency. For decades, Republicans had used projects like Red Map to lock in power through gerrymandering. They redrew lines after every census to rig elections for 10 years at a time. This time, Democrats flipped the playbook. They used the law against Trump's loyalists quietly, methodically, legally. While Trump distracted the media with his overseas circus, Democrats reshaped the battlefield. In Virginia, Illinois, Maryland, and California, they carved up the districts that had protected Trump's allies. He thought he was untouchable. But by the time he got back, the board had shifted. Trump's trip to Asia was supposed to be a show of dominance. It turned into a parade of emptiness. His speeches were rambling. His teleprompter failed. His jokes fell flat. He complained about broken escalators and bad lighting. He bragged about numbers that didn't exist. Even conservative outlets back home struggled to defend him. His foreign accomplishments were smoke and mirrors. No trade deals, no breakthroughs, just photo ops. He even floated meeting Kim Jong-un again, a desperate attempt to relive his old glory days when global cameras still cared. But this time the spotlight didn't blind his critics. Americans were paying attention. They saw the hunger lines. They saw the unpaid workers. They saw the government shut down while Trump wined and dined abroad. They saw the Golden Ballroom replacing the East Wing, an image that perfectly captured what Trump really stands for himself. And the irony, the red states that worshipped him were suffering the most. Rural communities in Missouri, Kansas, and Texas saw their food banks empty out faster than ever before. Small-town farmers who voted for him now lined up for assistance. Federal employees in D.C. and Virginia waited hours for help, saying that they felt betrayed by the same man they once trusted. A food bank worker told reporters She had never seen shelves so bare in her entire career.
I can't remember a time when our shelves have been so empty. I mean, over the last 9 months, we've been seeing prices raised pretty high. And so families are already struggling. So when you take that additional money away, food is going to become scarce. And I think families are also going to have to make difficult choices because if you can't eat it, you can't buy it. So think about hygiene products, toilet paper, all of those things that you're using a limited budget for now. Now you're going to have to split those things with food.
And the administration could have fixed it instantly. The Department of Agriculture had $5 billion in emergency reserves ready to release. They chose not to. Congresswoman Catherine Clark explained it clearly.
The announcement that SNAP benefits would be cut is unconscionable, in my opinion, and I just want to be 100% clear. We are not cutting SNAP because we are shut down. We are cutting SNAP because the administration had decided not to spend the reserves at the USDA in November and to deny people their benefits.
America had the funds to feed its people. The government simply refused, all while Trump poured money into international travel, foreign pageantry, and his gold-plated vanity projects. The truth is that Trump's trip to Asia wasn't a mission of diplomacy. It was an escape from accountability. He left a nation in crisis to chase applause. Overseas, he danced, he posed, he pretended. But the real war was happening back home, in legislative chambers, in redrawn maps, in quiet committee meetings where the Democrats outsmarted him. They didn't need the cameras, they needed results. And they got them when he finally landed back in America.
Which plays back into the point I made on Blue Sky, that this is what we need. Not theatrics, not a WWE match, but adults in the room doing the adult things. Point blank.
Trump tried to act like nothing had happened. He called it a tremendous success. But the cracks were already showing. His political empire had weakened. His grip on Congress was slipping. His own voters were starving. His lies about the economy were unraveling. And the man who once boasted he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose support now faced a public that was finally starting to see through the illusion. We are anonymous. We do not kneel to kings. We expose the truth that power fears.
Exactly. And thank you once again, Anonymous, for showing us the realness of a Trump presidency. Because some of you think that we're just being mean to this doddering old man. It's not fair, but it is the reality of letting somebody who is only about himself in charge of stuff. This has been so bad for business. And the American people are the ones suffering under this regime. But I'm going to fire up Dark Brandon just to get a little bit of a feel of what racism in America has truly inflicted us with. Because Donald Trump is a symptom of the racism that so many people condone. So I'm going to get this fired up while I get a little bit more of Stitch painted. And I promise on Friday I will show you the finished product. I am really excited about this.
You're doing well today. As racism becomes more normalized, it increases the likelihood for just random Americans to experience it. And that's what we're going to look at today. Today, we're looking at a YouTuber and streamer who goes by the name Tuvington. He's in his, somewhere in his 20s. He's Hispanic. And while recently out with his mom, experienced racism. Let's take a look.
We decide to go to a local spirit Halloween. As we have their own lanes, my mom made a mistake. She accidentally cut off, going to the left, cut off the car. All right? Car honks for like a long ass time. You know they're mad. Car honk. I'm like, bruh. I think they're honking at you, mom. I'm looking at my phone. I'm not really paying attention. I thought nothing of it. And then we park outside of the spirit Halloween and I hear yelling. I'm like, I already know what's happening, bruh. Like my mom, someone's gonna be yelling at my mom.
Okay, so it's worth noting that road rage is a real thing, and it's very common for violence to come out of road rage. And all of that happened before society became so divisive.
Yeah, I'm from New York. Road rage is literally nothing new. But the fact is, as a black person, it always did come with the added fear that you were going to get some weird racist or weird bigot or weird misogynist that was going to attack you because of your identity. Racism is nothing new. That's why I kind of side-eye where people act like racism just came under Trump. Stares entire black woman.
Before there were so many bad role models who encouraged others to display racist and hateful behavior. So it's more important now than ever how we navigate the world and engage people. Let's see how Tuvington navigates this.
Bro, I check. It's a man in his car with his son yelling at my mom, dog. I'm not letting that shit slide. I don't give a fuck. So Oh, by the way, it's a black man. So racism from a black man, you're about to see why I mean racism.
It's not racism from a black man. It's bigotry from a black man. Racism has structural power. Racism could have made you and your mother disappear. It's bigotry. So the fact that you had to put that he was a black man to act like black people can't be bigots, nobody's ever said that. But racists have power where bigots normally don't. Let's get that right, Tov. And I actually like Tov's videos, so yeah. This hits a little bit harder because they're exploiting one ethnic group against another, and it's frustrating.
This dude yelling at my mom, like, bro, I swear, if I had no composure, oh my fucking God. But anyway.
Out of the gate, he is navigating this well, right? He's talking about maintaining composure. In a moment when you're engaging someone who is feeling a lot of emotion, be it anger or sadness, a good de-escalation technique is to maintain your composure. And I think another thing worth noting is that the person who's yelling at Covington and his mom has his own child in the backseat. And so far,
several bigots do that. This is nothing new. I'm not defending bigotry. I think anybody who is that mad shouldn't even be driving, honestly. And I say that as a former New Yorker who's seen all kinds of road rage incidents. My thing is, you are not going to cut to the heart of racism by little quips like this about how, oh, they had their children in the car. That shit don't matter to somebody who wants to be harmful and hateful, ma'am. It really doesn't matter in the long run. The problem is there are way too many people in this climate willing to fight each other over superficial stupidness.
From what we're seeing, he's putting his anger on display for his child to see, continuing a pattern, normalizing behavior. Let's see what other normalized behavior he does next.
So, what is he saying? What is he yelling? Honestly, a lot of that happened in my head like that, like in a flash. But the shit he was saying, does she not know how to fucking drive? Shit like that. And then I know how to speak. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I didn't see the mistake happen. But obviously a mistake happened. My mom cut him off. That was the mistake. And he's like trying to yell at my mom. So I lean into the car. So he's yelling from inside. He's yelling from inside the car. I lean into the car and I'm like, what's up, bro? Like, what's like, tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on. This is like a 50-year-old.
First off, like I said, I enjoyed Tuv's content, but I'm going to tell you right where he messed up in de-escalating an already bad situation. You don't lean into somebody's car acting like, you know, you're going to fight them right off the bat. Yeah, him yelling at your mom was dumb, but most of us who have to deal with racism and bigotry, because there are two of the same coins, but one is inherently not the same, want to either de-escalate or extract ourselves from a bad situation, especially if there's kids involved. This guy was a piece of shit, but the way Tuv is framing it, like, I'm already hearing where this escalated, where him and his mom could have just left the situation alone.
50-year-old man or some shit. And then he starts saying racist shit. Tell her to go back to her country. What the f, bruh?
Okay, so this statement, go back to your country. We've heard it before. In fact, Donald Trump publicly told 4 U.S. congresswomen of color to go.
Yeah, the squad. And I'm not big fans of either of them, but I don't think they should be subjected to racism either. I wish they weren't wasting congressional seats, though. All 3 of them, Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, all of them are waste of seats, as far as I'm concerned.
Places where they came from. The House eventually condemned it as racist. But that didn't stop the phrase from echoing in his rallies and crowds where they chanted, "Send her back."
Omar has a history of launching vicious.
Omar has her own set of problems with her campaign finances scandals with her husband. You don't have to be racist against her. She is an American citizen. That whole send her back to where? Illinois? Where? The Midwest, where she's from? This is what the problem with racists. You let your shit boggle when there are actually things that you could call Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and AOC out on without being stupid bigots. But we can't expect bigots to be smart people. We just can't.
Anti-Semitic screeds.
Same people who are going to turn against Israel crying anti-Semitism.
But let's explore this idea. Why is go back to your own country harmful? It, for one, attacks belonging, not behavior.
Not only that, but a lot of these people screaming send her back got ties to the Mayflower. Maybe we should get a wooden ship and send some of your asses back to England or wherever the fuck you came from. Those of you who are proud that your pilgrim ancestors came here and stole from my ancestors. Yeah, how about we send you motherfuckers back?
Tuvington's mom made a mistake. Instead of arguing about the mistake made, he just skips ahead to simply saying they don't deserve to be here at all. That's banishment as an argument. And furthermore, it implies that citizenship or Americanness depends on race, accent, or origin.
Some of us didn't get a choice in that though, honey. Because while half of my relatives were here, the other half were forced to be here. So it's really interesting to hear this POV because it feels to me like they are trying to deflect against the fact that while there are bad apples from every ethnicity, the people who still benefit the most from American racism are her demographic. And that is the reality of this. This is why I've had a hard time watching Dark Brandon lately. I've not got rid of my sub because there are times where I still enjoy them. But this both sides to racism, this both sides to bigotry in America is getting tiring. We have never had the power in our country to banish people. Words can suck, but unless you've had a child at the age of 7 or at my age 11, have somebody call you the N-word because they wanted to demean and dehumanize you. If you're not a person who goes to a mosque with the fear that some right-wing extremist is going to shoot your place of worship up, or a synagogue, even though some of these people are trying to fake the front and say, we side with Israel, while literally condoning a guy with trying to run under the Democrats that had a Nazi symbol proudly on his chest until it was pointed out to him in 40. The fact of the matter is, no matter what people want to say, our country is up against rampant entitlement and people who can't see something bad unless they're directly affected by it. It is entitlement. It is just privilege, social privilege, that blinds so many people to the plights of people who are the constant targets of hate. And like I said, I don't like when black men or black women engage in bigotry because bigotry doesn't help us. We are not going to look like the better people when we engage in the same rhetoric that white supremacists behave with. But the fact of the matter is, there are still people that try to sway the language, calling bigotry racism, ignoring the fact that racism has systemic properties. And before I wrap it up, I'm going to let you know again that systemic means they can keep you out of schools, they can deny you bank loans, they can redline your area and then come back after you build that area and gentrify it. They can convince the whole fucking globe that your skin color means that you're less intelligent, more prone to violence, as if violence and crime isn't tied to socioeconomic inequality. They shun our excellence unless we entertain them, whether it's in music or sports. But when it comes to being leaders in science and technology, we're often ignored. We have had eugenics cheat us out of pulling this country forward when it comes to future science and technology. We have had our contributions downplayed, including getting people to the fucking moon. But anti-blackness within America is what true racism is. And while I am sorry to Tuv and his mother that they experienced bigotry on that level, and nobody should be shaken up or told to get out of their own damn country, I need people to start understanding the differences between bigotry and racism, or we're not going to get anywhere. And I need people to start vetting their candidates for whatever positions they're running for, so that we don't risk putting a literal Nazi sympathizer in a place of power. We are in dangerous times. Hate has a slick tongue and a big pocketbook, and they are willing to throw resources into getting positions of power to subjugate us. So if you hear this and you understand that, with the midterms coming up, with the redistricting going on, find out who's running, vet who's running, and vote. Vote like your life depends on it, because it really does this time. And while we are in this shutdown, all of us are in trouble. I want you to think about that. I will be back on Friday with some more well, I keep saying Bonnet Chronicles. You can't blame me. It was my show for a long time. But no, I will be back with an all new Craft&Chat. But remember, please vote, because it all depends on us. I will see you all next time on Friday. Thank you, Theo, for sitting in. Thank you, Honey, for sitting in. Thank you for all the lurkers and the people who watch this when I re-upload it on YouTube. I'm going to wrap this up. Go get calmed down. Get Stitch finished. He is coming out very nicely. I am very happy with this paint job, and I can't wait to show you the finished stuff on Friday. See ya.